Hello everybody, I'm Milos Belanec, aka 3D Miles on the social networks, 3D environment artist for cinematic industry, and I would like to show you my workflow. This is not a tutorial for the tools, but for somebody it can be really useful. I hope you will enjoy it. First video for my sci-fi building is here, and I will speed up some parts because it's not a rocket science, and let's focus on the important parts for the best result. And you can see the blockout model for the bottom part of the building. This part will be concrete part. And let's start with the basics. What is the blockout model? Blockout model is basically 3D concept of the shape and the size of the model in your scene, or the part of the another model in the scene. But sometimes you can use it directly for the ZBrush, or you can paint some textures on it, but it really depends what is the use case of this model. If it's model in the background, far from the camera, and is defocus is behind a lot of environment effects, you don't need to add more details in a ZBrush or another tools, because the mesh will be still like a silhouette or something like that. And if it's model near to the camera, or is the something like a hero object, yes, model near to camera is hero object a lot of times, the must be with a different level of the details than model in the background. And for example, this model is near to the camera, but near to the camera in this scene is around 50 meters, and this is really important to know level of the detail what we need. You can spend a lot of time of the adding a lot of small details in the mesh, a lot of small details in the textures, but will be lost in the distance of the camera from the mesh. Okay, and what I'm doing now. Blockout model is ready, and I need to split it to the more smaller parts, and with this step I can get more details directly to the mesh and more details to the textures. With the diversity of the colors, of the structures, of the materials, and a big model like this will be photorealistic, and readable of the scale will be better with the comparing to the environment and the other smaller details in the scene. Okay, let's start with the ZBrush, one of the most important tool in this pipeline. And yeah, we have this model, but the density of the model is not good for the sculpting. We can use zero measure, the density will be better, and we can start with the sculpting on the edges. But before that, we need to split this model to the separated parts in the subtool menu. And after that, you can get a better control around the object. You can hide useless model in the scene. Yeah, the sculpting will be more comfortable and faster. And now let's start about the brushes. Basically, this model is very simple and is not a hero object near to camera. This is why I'm using a few brushes for that. Currently, I'm using brush under BCB. It's almost favorite brush probably for a lot of artists in this tool, because you can create with it main mesh or the base for the details, and is really flexible. And the second important brush for asset like this one is planer. You can get a better shape of the edges near to holes, and the edge will be sharper and better visible when you will bake it in a substance painter, and you can get a better result for the smart materials. Another cutting of the mesh, I'm using the mask pen. You can use it by pressing of the control and drag your pen or mouse, and you can get this selection frame. And when selection is ready, go to the subtool, split, and split unmasked points. And we are done with the detailing of the edges. We can continue on the flat part of the model, and we will use the same brush, but with minor edits. In the stroke, we will change the drag rect, and under drag rect is a window for the alpha, and you can choose your own. I will speed up this part of the video because I'm using the same mentioned brushes, and if you are not interested, you can skip it and you can continue on the next step. The next important step of the sculpted model is the optimization. I'm using Decimation Master directly in the ZBrush, which is in the Z plugin icon. The first step is preprocess current. This is for the selected model in the subtool menu, or preprocess all, and this is for the all models in the subtool menu. Now you can see the process bar is on the top part of the screen. For the wireframe preview, you can press Shift F or this icon. Wireframe is visible, you can set the percent of the decimation. And the common question is about the poly count. And this is a really hard question because every time depends on the task from your client, from your studio, or if it's your personal project, the limit can be your personal hardware, or it's really important if it's object near to the camera, far from the camera, if it's the hero object, is it in the static scene or dynamic scene, if you have animated cameras, or maybe the mesh will be destroyed with another effects. And what is good to know, this type of the decimation is good for the model like this one. If you want to decimate human parts, something what will be animated with bones, and this is not good because in the animation is important the consistent topology, and we can talk about it in another video. This triangulation is good for the static models which are not deformated by bones or skin deform or something like that. And when everything is ready, we need two models. The first one will be low poly and the second one will be high poly. Basically the shape of the model must be the same, but different is in the poly count. Low poly is with a lower poly count, and high poly is with better details with a higher poly count. This workflow is the standard for the game industry, and we using in the trailers and in the cutscene. Of course, when we have some big and heavy models, we can bake it. But for this use case, I will export both, but I will use only low poly because this model is not with the structures on the edges, is not with the small details on the surfaces, and I will add it later in the textures. This low poly model is not a really low poly model, it's around a few 10,000 polygons and can be used for this scene without problems. Now you can see Rhizome UV, my favorite tools for the unwraps, for the UDIMs, and yeah, it's really fast and stable with the heavy models. And common question, how many UDIMs for which model? The same as for the density of the mesh. Let's skip it and back to the unwrap. Let's check it in the tool. This is wall model of the concrete parts. It's on the 5 UDIMs. You can choose the UDIM number here. And yeah, I'm doing it manually in this video because I don't like a lot of islands in the UV layout. And I'm using the smart materials and smart masks. If you will use the auto sim like here, this auto sim is really nice. Is fast and stable, but for example, if I will use the box auto sim, this will hit a lot of small triangles here, and maybe if you will do it manually, you have better control. And if you want to save the time, you can do it with auto sim. And with manually is really fast. You can click on the edge, press shift, and you can drag it. From my point of view, it's fast and the result is better than with the auto sim. And a quick tip, if you have a problem with the saving of the UVs, check if you don't have multiple channels or the channel name in the UVs. This tool is for the 3D Max, probably something similar is for the all 3D tools. Okay, everything is done. Now we need to pack it. Just check if your textile density is same for the all islands. Set spacing and maybe rotation in the packing, and model is ready for the Substance Painter. Welcome in the Substance Painter. You can check the mesh if it's everything okay, all normals and all details with the shift and drag the mouse or pen. Okay, everything looks good. Let's start with the baking. Uncheck this box. This is if you want to use same model for the baking of the maps. Select the high poly model. Here is the cage for the distance, high poly and low poly. No. Here is a little bit of error because I made one change in the low poly model. This change can be a problem for some smart materials, smart mask, but no worry, I will use the hand painting, and for this use case is not a problem. But the rule is the shape of the low poly and high poly must be the same. Okay, again, I will speed up this part of the video because I will use all smart things from the Substance Painter, maybe some textures from the Quixel, and maybe my scans, my hand painting, and you can enjoy it. This is not the video about the tools, but about the workflow. We can check separately all tools in separated videos. And yeah, this is my first video. I will be happy for all feedbacks, for all comments. And if you have any question, leave me the comment or check my social networks, Instagram, ArtStation, and stay tuned for the next content. Have a nice day.